Welcome back to the show. As many of you know, the U.S. men's national team beat Team Canada last night 4-1 in Orlando in a rematch of in the Nations League Cup Cup tournament, Nations League. I don't know what it's called. So I'm here to give my reactions to the match, talk about player performance. If any of you tuned in yesterday to my match preview, kind of the pre-match tailgate, I expressed a lot of discontentment with the team, with U.S. Soccer Brass, as I have since this channel's opened. And essentially, I felt this way for a number of years now about the U.S. men's soccer team. I said kind of from the get-go that one good result wouldn't change the way I feel about the direction of the team. It wouldn't necessarily boost my optimism or, quote, win me into the Greg Berhalter corner. That said, I want to talk about the good things we did see and then talk about the disconcerting areas as well. I think the first thing to do is talk about how the players actually played yesterday. Anybody that watches the match would look at, the U.S. went up 3-0 in this match, and it would be easy to say that that was reflective of a truly dominant performance. But really, and I don't want to be too negative. I don't want to be that person that, acts like a result isn't good enough, because I've been saying ever since this channel's open, results are what matters. You want to win the matches. It's and given the choice between 60%, 70% possession and a win, I'll always take the win. That said, the United States controlled 37% of the ball possession against a Canadian team that's ranked 69th in the world. So that's something we need to think about. The goals, two came from set pieces, and then two came from open play. One came, Jordan Morris played a ball in the head of Giazzi Zardes, and then Zardes had a wide open opportunity in the box later on in the match in the second half to kind of close out the game. Both of these opportunities, that if Zardes hadn't have scored, it would have been woeful play. So again, I don't want us to be overly negative, but I don't want us to be too excited. And I think that the first goal in particular, as Jib Jab has indicated in the comments, we're a bit lucky. A deflection came right to Jordan Morris, who did well to finish. So here's what I want to say about the match. Kind of opening comments, and then I'm going to get into player ratings and then talk about Berhalter's approach and all that. This was in some ways a mirror reflection of the first match. The difference being that in the first match, the United States was the team that looked completely flat, didn't come out to play, was just sort of standing around flat-footed, and the game was taken to them. This time around, this is how Canada sort of opened up. Canada came with no energy whatsoever. It was really pedestrian. It looked like they were just waiting for Alphonso Davies to do things, and we're just kind of standing around. The forwards weren't disruptive. The movement was poor. Movement off the ball was poor. Defensive shape was bad and easily exploited. Canada wasn't good last night. But then again, Canada is the 69th ranked team in the world. So I guess they played the way I'd expect them to play. But the U.S. men's team took their chances. And so I'm going to kind of give pluses, negatives, and then get into more details here about the player ratings, the way I see it. The pluses, and I posted this on my Twitter if you want to follow me there, at Gabe from NH. That's GABEFROMNH on Twitter. The biggest thing was the U.S. took their chances well. If you've been following the team for a while, you know that this is a team that leaves a lot of chances on the pitch. And not everybody took their chances well, but for as much as I have and will continue to criticize the inclusion of Giazzi Zardes, I think he had 3 shots on goal and 2 ended up being goals. So 3 chances, 2 goals. That's pretty good. We'll take that. That side of the game was good. So the United States did well on set pieces and to take their chances when they had them. They didn't have a ton, but the ones they took well. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing, there were some standout performances for players that and when I say standout, I don't mean that they lit the world on fire, but they stood out as differences between this match and the last match. The first one being Jackson Ewell played pretty well. I'm not necessarily sold on him as an international player. I think he's somebody that needs to move abroad to continue his positive trajectory of improvement. But he played much better in that midfield slot than Christian Roldan would have or Michael Bradley had in the past. And, I thought he was a bright spot. Another thing was Aaron Lawn looked much better with John Brooks next to him. So John Brooks was another. It was good to have him dominating the forwards of Canada. And one thing I will note about him, and I'll talk about this later, is that he played really recklessly. He could have had a couple of cards, and he could have given away a penalty. The referee wasn't particularly interested in. I think that's another thing Canada did. They kept turning around, waiting for the ref to officiate it a certain way, and they should have realized that it wasn't going to be that kind of game. Some other bright spots: Sergino Dest looked good. Some in the American media are trying to anoint him as the second coming of Christ, which he didn't play that well in the match. I mean, he had some really bright moments, showed that he was going to be dangerous on the ball, showed off some considerable 1v1 skill, and no real huge defensive lapses, but he wasn't really tested by Canada either. And it was good for a 19-year-old attack first right back. I was pleased with his play. But I'm not ready to anoint him king of the U.S. men's national team. He should be in the lineup, of course, but let's not get ahead of ourselves and run away. I also thought that Jordan Morris was particularly bright. The end product on a lot of his distribution or kind of the final ball, I'm not the only one to say this. Taylor Twellman talked about it. He needs to get out of MLS and really push himself to improve, because between his pacing and positioning, he could be a really dangerous player consistently. He's in great form right now, probably in the best form of his career. But every player in the world will know this: your form isn't going to continue to be that good all the time. It's going to go down. And unless he improves that kind of final product on the ball, and some of his first touches in tight areas weren't particularly good either. So I'm pleased with his performance. It was a good performance from him. I'm pleased about it. Right. Now, let's get into the things that weren't so good. So I think the first and foremost, is Weston McKennie looked awful last night. I'm a Weston McKennie fan, and many of the people I follow and I talk to a lot on Twitter are not. I think Weston McKennie is going to be a huge asset for this national team right now. I'm sorry, in the future. I think what he needs to do is go back to Schalke and figure out what his best position is. On one hand, it's good that the manager Dave Wagner and the manager before him views him as a good enough player that they can kind of plug in anywhere. I mean, you want to be playing. However, moving from right back to center back to advanced midfielder to a midfielder in the hole, he's playing like a guy who has no idea where he's supposed to be playing and what he's supposed to be doing. His circumstantial awareness right now is fucked. He's playing dangerous passes. He's playing passes to nobody in bad areas. His work rate is good. I gotta say, he looks a little bit out of shape. So I don't know what the deal is with Weston McKennie. I hope it gets figured out. I don't think that he is. I think that he's a complementary midfield piece. I don't think that he is somebody that we should be relying on right now, given the kind of amorphous status at his club. Yes, keep calling him in, but if I were him, I'd actually talk to Berhalter and say, hey, look, when it comes to international breaks, before we're playing competitive matches, is it all right if I stay with my club? Because I really got to figure out what my role is there and really get stuck in and improve. He hasn't improved in a while. That's the thing. I feel like he's starting to regress a bit. And I think that a focus on positional excellence wherever he's going to be playing on the pitch is going to be a good thing. That was a low. Other things, I thought Paul Arriola was useless last night. He works really hard. I got to give him that. He was pressuring Canada when they had the ball. He was trying to make good runs. His first touch isn't particularly good. His decision making is slow. When he plays the right ball, he plays it too late. I'm just not a fan of this guy's play. I think that this is another guy that should have gone abroad. I don't think that he's when you look at the way he plays in MLS for DC United, it's not overly impressive. And I understand that he's a Berhalter guy, but I don't understand his inclusion. I want to like him. I want his performances. He loses the ball too much. His first touch isn't particularly good. And just aside from the work rate, I don't necessarily see the appeal. I think there are better options going forward and in that position than Paul Arriola. So that was an area I thought should improve. Giazzi Zardes, in terms of how he played, this is really funny. Aside from the 2 goals, he played terribly. His hold-up play was embarrassing. There were 3 or 4 moments where it was like it was a liability having him out there in possession. Wasn't very good. I'm not going to. He didn't have a terrible match. Obviously, he scored 2 goals, and his movement continues to be good. But I got to tell you, I wonder if he'd be better as a winger if he's just going to be in Greg Berhalter. I mean, my ideal is not to have him in the match at all or in the team at all. But if you're going to have him, do you really want to have him playing center forward? Are there not better options there? I would argue that Josh Sargent is an infinitely better option there. But yeah, I was pretty. I buried my head in my hands a couple times with Giazzi Zardes out there. There's one particular clip I posted on my Twitter that is really embarrassing. Gets no contact whatsoever. A ball comes right at him and he just falls down. It's really funny. Tim Ream, I thought his possession play was better than what Daniel Lovitz would offer and it offered last time against Canada, but no one thinks he's a long-term option on this team, right? Except for Greg Berhalter gave him the captaincy, which again, Berhalter continues to use the captaincy as a sort of rotating armband. In so taking the meaning away completely. The captaincy means nothing right now. And this is a team that's searching for an identity still. And if you're going to have an identity, you need to have a consistent captain. I think he wants to make Tyler Adams the captain. That's what I think, probably. But Tyler Adams isn't in the squad and hasn't been in a while. Brad Guzan, his distribution wasn't particularly good. All in all, Guzan is what he is. He's a good shot stopper. Excuse me. I don't want to get too all over the place here. I'll go with the player ratings that we'll talk about what this kind of match means in the broader context of the U.S. men's national team performance. Guzan I had at a 6. Sergiño Dest I had as a 7. Brooks I had as a 6. And the reason being there, I mean, he shut down attacks everywhere, but he was also kind of reckless. Aaron Long, 7. He did get a goal, but I think his performance is predicated on the position of John Brooks. Tim Ream as a 5. Jackson Ewell as a 6. Weston McKennie as a 3. Sebastian Lletget as a 5. And this is a guy who got stuck into challenges pretty routinely on the night, which was nice, but was otherwise pretty unremarkable. Clumsily blew a chance right in front of goal that should have been a goal. I mean, that's wasteful at this level. You can't have that. Paul Arriola was a 4. Giazzi Zardes is a 5. People are going to disagree maybe, but his hold-up play was that bad. If his hold-up play had been good, I probably would have given him a 7 or an 8 simply because he got the 2 goals. But to be honest, both of those goals, Jordan Morris played a perfect ball right to his head. If he hadn't finished, it would have been a disgrace. And then the second goal, he got the ball right to his feet. If he hadn't finished, it would have been a disgrace. Anybody else in that roster should have made those finishes and not just him. Let's talk about Greg Berhalter. Everyone says that Greg Berhalter has altered his approach. Well, not particularly. They still, he still called up the same guys, played the same guys. I was pretty shocked with the lineup choice. It ended up working out for them. I don't think that's because the lineup choice. I think Canada was just really poor. If this team had played first leg Canada, I think they would have been destroyed on the pitch. 37% possession against the 69th team ranked team in the world is not good enough. On one hand, I said earlier that I'd be happy to concede some of the possession if we would get a result. So I guess I got what I asked for. I think there's a healthy medium between controlling 70% and then losing, and then controlling 30%, 37% in winning. So I think the reality is that, if we can split possession 50-50 and still win, I'll probably be happy. I don't think the U.S. has the players to be a possession-oriented team. But Canada didn't really press us. I mean, we had plenty of time on the ball. I think overall, the game left a lot to be desired. The only thing I was happy about was the number of goals we actually scored, because there have been matches where we've had opportunities. We've been wasteful. And, 3 good quality chances, 4 good quality chances would turn into maybe 1 goal. So I can hear Gab Marcotti talking about expected goals right now. I hate that statistic, even though it is indicative of gauging how well a team played or not. So I'm pleased with the result. I'm absolutely not on the Berhalter train still. The reality is, um, oh, thanks, Bill. Offer me a nice drink. Um, the reality is that I have no confidence that Greg Berhalter really evaluates talent fairly and objectively. I think the U.S. men's national team and maybe U.S. soccer as a whole apparatus has a vendetta against the perception that European-based players, are better. So they're looking to combat that perception by producing results with MLS guys. U.S. Soccer, their Twitter just rolled out a statistic today that in his first, I think, 19 matches, Greg Berhalter is the second fastest to reach 10 wins. Now, I'm not sure why 19 matches would be a milestone. It sounds to me that you're really digging up a way to praise your manager. But the average ranking of the teams that Greg Berhalter has faced has been 89, I believe. And every other manager on that list, whether it be Bob Bradley, Jurgen Klinsmann, or Bruce Arena, has had average rankings in the 60s or the 50s, low 50s. I think it's 50 and 51 for Arena and Klinsmann. So let's talk about or let's not talk about how impressive it is that Berhalter's racked up 10 wins in 19 games against an average of 89 in FIFA ranking. Now, again, this channel isn't about lauding FIFA rankings. FIFA rankings are BS. Do you remember what we were ranked leading up to the 2006 World Cup? We were in the top 5 in the world. What a joke. Sorry, it's a little sick. But yeah, FIFA ranked us in the top 5 for a while, and then the Czech Republic opened up against us and just spanked us, beat the shit out of us, and it was always going to happen, right? So, um, I still don't think this team is going to. If Berhalter continues to evaluate talent like this, continues to look at the Paul Areolas, Giazzi Zardez's, even the Jackson Yules of the team. Jackson played a good match. I'm not critical of him. This is the first time I've seen him actually play. It's the first time I've seen him start in a men's national team uniform. I'm not sure if he ever has before. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But this is the first time I've actually seen him in a full 90-minute performance starting for the men's national team, and he looked pretty good. He looked pedestrian. It's not like he had an amazing touch. It's not like he made great plays, but he got stuck in and he distributed the ball quickly and he moved it. And that's what you're looking for, and you would expect of a highly rated young MLS player. He played better than Michael Bradley would have or has the past couple of years, and he definitely played better than Will Trapp might have and has for the past couple of years. That being said, am I convinced of Jackson Yueill over a guy like Alfredo Morales? No, I'm not. Am I convinced of Jackson Yueill over a player like Tyler Adams when he comes back? No, I'm not. People are still talking about Tyler Adams like he's going to play right back. It's ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous. Should a guy like DeAndre Yedlin be coming off the bench? No, I don't think so. DeAndre Yedlin hasn't looked good in the UN's men's national team uniform in terms of his play in years. Last time he looked good was when he was playing for Jurgen Klinsmann. I think that's more reflective of the program and how he's deployed and the communication and what the expectations are. Because when you watch him play for his club, Steve Bruce plays him pretty well. Alan Pardew used to play him pretty well. So it's not. I'm sorry, he didn't play under Alan Pardew. That's absolutely wrong. He played under Rafa Benitez. Excuse me, Alan Pardew. My God. But yeah, so that there is this sort of sense that it's almost like you have to work extra hard if you're a European-based player. To get into this team where guys like, I've beaten up on him enough. I feel bad, but guys like Daniel Lovitz will just walk into the team. Anyway, let's look at some of the comments here. What do you guys think? Greg Berhalter thinks Yedlin is a winger. Yes, the same Yedlin struggles with crossing. Yedlin's crosses, he struggled with crossing for the U.S. His delivery for Newcastle has been good. So there's an issue there in terms of translating his club form over to perform for the U.S. men's national team. And I think a good manager and a good staff could figure that out. Berhalter does and sees it okay now. Yeah, nope. Yeah, I don't think Yedlin's a winger. I don't. And you're right. When Klinsmann did it, people were like, "Oh, this is nonsense. It's BS." And now Berhalter says it's a big deal, and everyone agrees with it. Yeah, yeah. My pet peeve with this result is that it will embolden MLS shills, and Berhalter will continue favoring MLS players because we can beat Canada by 4 goals. These guys are good enough. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Again, I'm never going to root for the U.S. team to lose. There are some people doing that. Like, look, if Ernie Stewart had come out and said, which he was never going to do, and no sporting director ever would, at least that's worth their salt, said that this is a must win, and if Berhalter doesn't win, he's out. I mean, you never want to see your sporting director like not give your manager a vote of confidence before a match. But if he had said that, then maybe like privately, I would have hoped for maybe a Canadian win, because I think what's going to happen is this team's going to continue to get tarred and feathered by legitimate competition, and are going to continue to play mentally weak players. And I do believe the guys in MLS are mentally weak. I think the league conditions them to be so. I think their clubs condition them to be so. I think that, U.S. soccer media pushes players to be mentally weak. Christian Pulisic went like 4 straight matches on the bench, and everybody was talking about a loan. Now, I came out on this channel and said that I don't think that Frank Lampard wants him there, but I never said he should go out on loan. And the reality is that it's that weak mentality that you should just go somewhere else where they'll appreciate you. You know what I love about Clint Dempsey? Go online sometime, go on YouTube and look for Jimmy Bullard telling stories. And he tells a story about how Clint Dempsey was so intense in training that he was like, "What the hell, dude? You're crazy." Now, Jimmy Bullard isn't very complimentary of Clint Dempsey, but Jimmy Bullard never had the career that Clint Dempsey did. Clint Dempsey used to treat his teammates like they were his enemies during training, because Clint didn't go to Fulham to make friends. He went to become as good of a footballer as he could be, and compete at the highest level. I think that the guys in MLS, the Christian Roldans, and I don't mean just pick on the Sounders guys, but maybe even the losing name, Jordan Morris. What's wrong with me today? Even Jordan Morris. I think that it's enough to have a dog that you share and living close to your girlfriend and a team that wants you. No, man, if you want to get great, if you want to be a great player, then go to a place that's going to make you great. It's going to push you every single day. MLS just simply doesn't do that. Sebastian Lletget was struggling for playing time at West Ham in the Premiership, and now he's a star for the LA Galaxy. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Anyway, more comments here. Davies was the best player out there for me. Yeah, I think Davies is a better player than Dest right now in his career, but they also play different positions. Davies, well, I guess that's not true. Davies is being deployed as a left back at Bayern Munich, I believe, or maybe right back. But he had played, as an attacking player, and I think he's more naturally an attacking player. Just Bayern Munich have a abundance of riches. Look, Dest is young, so is Davies. I think they're both really good players. Mixed Diskerud is needed in the national team. No, he is not. King Leipzig, have you watched him play for the national team? I don't think he is. He didn't really stand out in MLS either. He came back to MLS and he wasn't exactly a great player there. So no way. I totally disagree. I totally respect your opinion, but I think that's rubbish. I think many U.S. fans look at a player they haven't seen very much, and I'm not saying that's the case with you. He didn't play for Man City. I think he was signed, but I've never saw him play in a Man City game. Oh, guy's fucking trolling me, man. Come on, Leipzig. Would I be in favor of having Bobby Wood replace Zardes? Bobby Wood has to learn to score goals at all. I don't know what his goal scoring record. I don't even think he's getting regular playing time in this second tier Bundesliga. He's a guy whose confidence has been completely shattered. No, I don't necessarily. Again, you all know that I don't want Zardes in the squad, but I don't think Bobby Wood deserves a call up either. I'd rather take somebody young and up and coming like Haji Wright. I'm not necessarily advocating for his call up, but like if we're gonna call somebody else, we might as well call someone like that, or you might as well I'll use one of those roster slots for Richie Ledesma, or get Yuli Lalana into a match and see how he does in a friendly, not in a competitive match like this. I want to be clear. Alvarado needs to be called up over Long. I think Alvarado needs to be called up. I'm not sure over Long. I think over Walker Zimmerman. Walker Zimmerman's had a really poor season, so I think that I think that's probably a better call up. But I agree. I don't know who Nick Giacchi is, so I don't have any. He's not on my radar. He probably should be, but I'll have a look at him. I can't comment about a player I don't know. His club don't want Wood. They're intentionally not playing him. Yeah, I wouldn't want him either. Would you want him right now? Discord is a true journeyman. It's experiencing different playing styles to make the national team more versatile. This is amazing. Yeah, I remember when Mixed Discord came over to MLS. He was just trash. Tyler Adams has gone missing. Tyler Adams is still training. He's just not fully match fit yet. So we'll see him soon. I'm scared about overly relying on a 19-year-old, or maybe he's 20 now. Bundesliga player has less than 20 games under him. Sebastian Soto, I think he has a lot of potential. Saw him play for our youth teams. Looks very, very good. Rumor is that he's headed over to Ajax. I hope that's true. Look, whether it's Alex Mendez, Sebastian Soto, Yuli Lalanes, any one of those guys, Richie Ledesma, I just want them to be playing at a high level, and I want them to be making an impact in moving their club trajectories forward. We've had a lot of young players star at the youth level for big clubs, whether it be Emerson Heineman. What's the name of the Arsenal kid? He's not an Arsenal kid anymore. He's in MLS now, and I'm not sure he's really turning any heads there. What the hell's his name? Shoot. What's his name? Never. I'm not going to just stick on. It's Gideon ZLM. Yep, that's right. Thanks, Jam. So we've had a lot of highly touted players, and people were saying that Gideon ZLM was the next big thing at Arsenal. He never broke through. He had injury issues. So lots of stuff can happen. All I really want from these like U19, U20, U23 players is for them to be getting playing time. And then to excel. It's not enough just being in the match. Like one of the reasons Lallana is so exciting to me is because he's crushing it with his goals record over there. I think he's at Wolfsburg U19s. He scored like 10 goals. I think he's just crushing it right now. So yeah, like that's what I want to see. And when someone gets introduced, I want them to make positive contributions. It's not enough just being in a lineup. Lyndon Gooch is still at Sunderland. I think he picked up an injury this year, but he's still there. If Sunderland was in the championship and Lyndon Gooch was still playing well, I'd say call him into a camp, but Berhalter won't. I just want Sargent, Weah, Pulisic, Adams, and Richards to play together with Yellen, Brooks, Destin, Steffen. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be really nice. I agree. I really hope Ledesma and Chris Richards and those guys really, really, really establish themselves in the senior team within this year or next. I would love to see Timmy Weah get healthy because, man, he's been injury prone. But when he's wealthy, he's put goals in the back of the net, and that's what you want. And yeah, absolutely, Tyler Adams was one of the most exciting players I'd seen in a while at his age group. Another overhyped one-hit wonder, Aaron Johansson. Not really overhyped. I just think that there's been an attitude shift in U.S. soccer. Before, if we had somebody declare and they were playing for a foreign team, U.S. soccer would be like, you see, we have good players playing in the biggest leagues in Europe. You see, we've arrived. Now it's sort of like, well, we don't care about these guys. You see, MLS. So we've arrived. MLS is a top league. So now they've just started overhyping MLS kids, and that's really the difference. So I don't think Aaron Johansson was overhyped. I just think that, he's had a lot of injury issues himself. And look, watching him play, he's got some skill, but I never thought he was going to be like a troubling number 9 for us. So, yeah. So at the U20 World Cup, Des didn't even stand out for us. All these U20 guys could play the full team. Yeah, if you remember I think it's 2007 U20 World Cup. That's like the Michael Bradley, Freddie Adu, and Josie Altidore group. There were some players that stood out in some matches, like against Brazil and stuff. Like Sal Zizzo and Danny Zatella, and those guys just did not work out as pros. So it's hard. It's not a perfect science. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you'll see a kid and you have no idea how he trains. You'll have no idea what his work ethic is, or his mentality off the pitch, or how he gets on with new guys, or how he does when he travels. And you have no idea that kind of thing most of the time, just as a casual fan. Some of you guys do, but I don't. And it's hard to tell who's going to work out. Uh, I happen to think the guys that have mentalities of, hell or high water, I'm going to make it. The guys like Clint Dempsey. And I know that's a hard standard to hold our players to. Pulisic has that kind of work rate. He just doesn't have that. He's more of a quiet worker than Clint Dempsey is. But obviously, I'm going to favor those players that have shown that play with a chip on their shoulder. Let's see. MLS needs better Americans. That's absolutely true. How do you pronounce it? Is it Capis or Sapis? I don't know. But yes, I know who he is. Rumored being watched by multiple Bundesliga clubs. Good. Emmanuel's a good player. He's fast, he's shifty, and he scores goals. So I really hope he comes to the Bundesliga and just stays in Europe. Although I have this feeling that Greg Berhalter is like, yeah, we've been watching him, but I really think Zardes is better. So let's talk about what we're expecting, what we want to see going forward from the men's national team. First of all, we should understand that this next Nations League Cup match doesn't matter. It's going to be against Cuba. If they don't beat Cuba by like a 6-goal margin, it's a failure, right? So that's that. We need to put no stock in the next match. What I will say is this: I want to see Berhalter's squad selection improve. I want to see the team continue to take their chances well and generate more from open play. And I want to see the same decent defensive shape that we saw. And I want to see improved possession play, meaningful possession. I'm not really a big fan of just knocking the ball around your own half and then calling it good football. To kind of wrap up the discussion of the men's national team performance last night, I think, on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of team performance, I'd give it a 5.5 or 6. That sounds really low. But when you've only controlled 37% of the possession, which is way below what you'd expect against a team like Canada, when the big majority of one of them was in garbage time when Canada was overextended. So let's just talk about 3 goals, and 2 of them came from set pieces, and were potentially against the run of play. You have to wonder, how good your team actually was. Possession play wasn't particularly great. Open play was poor. That being said, they still won the match, and that's the most important thing. I've said that over and over and over. You've all said that, and I think we all sort of feel that together. That's kind of where I'm at on that. What happened to Greg Garza? He came into MLS and sort of disappeared. Am I right? Let's find out right now. Greg Garza. I think so. Yeah, he's a fullback for FC Cincinnati. No idea why he came back to MLS or over to MLS. But instead of a young, promising player now, he's a 28-year-old, 150-pound, 5'8" fullback playing for Cincinnati. So great. Real exciting. Fabian Johnson wants to be on the team, and I want him to be on the team. He needs to be healthy, and if he's healthy and Berhalter doesn't call him up, I have no idea what's going on. Do I think Canada would crush El Salvador? So it's not like we crush El Salvador when we play them in El Salvador. It's a hard place to play. Although I think those are excuses. I think that it doesn't matter. I've never believed in momentum as a player, as an athlete, and as somebody, like, if I'm coaching kids, momentum in terms of positive feelings about what you're doing and building up squad goodwill, like, that's a thing. What's not a thing is that there's like this cosmic force out there that if a team starts playing better than you, then that cosmic force is like plotting against you now and helping them. That's garbage. Ultimately, you play better or you play worse, and conditions can influence that. But if you can't go into El Salvador and outplay to a man every single player on that field because that's your goal, that's your mission, then you're mentally weak. That's what I believe. So, Canada being below El Salvador Who knows? Maybe it's the quality of opponents that Canada's played. I don't think Canada's had an opportunity for many competitive matches outside of friendlies. So maybe the Nations League Cup is good for them. Maybe it'll actually show who the true powers in CONCACAF are. I don't know. I think Canada was pretty poorly served by their coach that last match. It's pretty clear he didn't prepare his guys to play. Maybe they were riding a little bit too high. Maybe they took a page out of the U.S. and thought a little bit too much of themselves. And then they got kind of played off, well, not played off the pitch in terms of run of play, but in terms of result, they certainly did. All right, so we're about 35 minutes in. I want to take some time for some questions. If you have any questions, shoot them in the comment section now. If not, I am gonna bugger off, guys. Let me take a sip of my non-pretentious drink. This cold's finally starting to clear up. Right. Okay. Well, looks like there's no questions. Oh, what was the deal with a weird penalty? Oh yeah. So no, this is a fact. You can head your the ball back to the keeper. Like if you have a play off your head, you can't hoof the ball down from the ground and do a trick and seal pound it off your head to the keeper so he can pick it up. So it results in an indirect free kick in the box. That means you can't just kick it right at the goal. You have to play it to a player into feet. That's what it's like. And so that's what happened. Horvath was screwed out of his spot. I think he's behind Simon Mignolet, isn't he? So I'm not sure if he's screwed. I think that he just has a better keeper in front of him right now. Anyone remember Dom Dwyer? I do. Little off topic. What do you think has changed for Pulisic? It looks like Lamps didn't fancy him. Now he's a starter. So I made a whole video about this. And my video wasn't that Lampard didn't like Pulisic. It was really that, like, in order to get into the lineup, he'd have to play out of his skin because Lampard, all things being equal, probably wants the English guys to succeed before him. It's nothing personal or anti-American. It's just kind of like, the way he's conditioned. That being said, Pulisic took his chances. Like in the match against Ajax, first leg, he was really bright. He was attacking, and he was difficult to deal with. So he earned himself a start, and then he scored a hat trick against Burnley, and then he scored a goal against Watford, and then he scored another goal against Crystal Palace. So he's the second leading scorer in the club, and he's in the top 20 scorers in the Premiership right now. So yeah, I think that's what's changed. I think he's just played better. It takes a little bit of time to adapt to the Premier League, and I think he's done that. He's made it really difficult for Lampard to take him out of the team now. Does it matter who the coach is in MLS, SUM, and US Soccer consolidate? If they consolidate power, no, it doesn't. Yeah. Gene, every player goes back to the bench in a top club like that when their productivity tapers. Think about that. Conte is on the bench right now. Now, he has been hurt, but it's going to be hard for him to unseat Jorginho or Kovacic because they've played so well. And that's what it's like in those top Premier League teams. You can be a guy like Clint Dempsey and go to Fulham and start every week because of what you did last season. But you can't go into a team like Tottenham, who have a number of great attacking alternatives, and expect to play every match unless you're playing out of your skin. That's what it's like. That's the difference between going to a top 4 team and then playing at a mid-table team. So yeah, that's why when you're a player like Miazga and you get transferred over to Chelsea, it's always going to be hard to break in because you're expected to be a world-class center back to be the second string. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the deal, I think there. I never seem to understand what an offside goal is. Can you explain? So basically, a goal can be ruled out for being offside if the attacking player who gets onto the ball lined up past the last defender, right? So it's hard to visualize without drawing it out or something like that. But the last defender in a line of defense determines where that offside line is going to be. And before the ball is played in, if you are between that last defender and the goalkeeper, even by a slight margin, you've created an offsides trap. What do you think about bringing Jeff Cameron back into the holding midfield? He's playing regularly in the championship. Is he, though? I'm not sure he is. Look, I don't think Jeff Cameron will ever get another call up for the national team. He made some really public comments, and I think the fact that U.S. Soccer still likes Bruce Arena, despite all his shitty comments and all his dumbass takes and bad results, I think tells you everything you need to know. U.S. Soccer is riding with Bruce Arena before they're riding with Jeff Cameron. Jack Harrison at Leeds can be called up for U.S. men's national teams as he's uncapped for England. I don't know much about Jack Harrison. Is he the NYCFC kid who that left? Um, is he starting at Leeds? I don't get to watch Leeds very often, even though I lived there. Think Julian Green will ever get a call? No, not by Greg Berhalter. Apparently, he's playing really, really well. I think if he transfers back to a Bundesliga club, maybe he will. But we didn't even think Alfredo Morales was going to get a call up, and he somehow got one. Yeah, Cosby, it is confusing to explain like that. Sorry. Remember that the offsides line isn't a line on the field, right? It isn't a line. So this is I can't do it on. No, I can't do it on camera. Sorry. I'll send you a link, or I'll post a link maybe. He's played 15 matches for Leeds. Really? Let's look at his stats then. Hang on. Let's look at his stats here. He's only 22 years old. Let's see. Oh, he's got a good rating. 3 goals and 4 assists. Shit. Out of the midfield. Huh. Yeah, I mean, his national affiliation here is English. So I'm not sure if he is he eligible to play for the United States? Is he an American citizen? If he's not, then that settles that. Right. He's been good for them. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's eligible either. Sorry to say. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Please share the channel, like this video when it's posted, and all of the YouTube stuff that'll help us in the algorithm. Really appreciate tuning in. Let me know in the comments below later on about what you think about the men's national team performance, what you're looking forward to. Are you back on the bandwagon? Are you still skeptical? Are you still Berhalter out? Let me know. We'll speak soon.